Playing bot lane in solo queue can be one of the most tilting experiences in League. Whether you're playing ADC or support, you have to deal with the other ADC or support, which is a random human being. Sometimes you guys click, and sometimes things go really poorly. Not only that, but you have to deal with the enemy bot lane, which again is more variables. There's 2 people you have to think about on the enemy team, where most lanes really only have to think about 1. Right? You're playing top lane, that's going to be an island with you and the enemy top laner for the whole game. You're playing mid lane, that's a 1v1 for most of the game. Bot lane, there's 4 people thrown down there. All randomly, all thrown down there, and that can get very chaotic. So today, I'm going to give you guys kind of a framework to deal with that. Today, I'm actually showing you guys a VOD that I reviewed in my academy. Check the links below if you want to get your own VOD reviewed in my academy. But this is a game we had a support player, and let me just show you guys. Okay, so in this game, we have a Seraphine playing with a Samira bot lane versus a Jhin and a Lux. Now, the hardest part about bot lane is that you have multiple people to think about. You have multiple people to think about. It's not just a 1v1. So what is Seraphine like? Seraphine likes to poke. She likes to use her range to disengage, right? So she's going to poke you. She's going to disengage. She's going to kite backwards. She's going to sustain. All of those kind of things, right? Seraphine is a poke champion. Now, if we go into this game and playing like a poke champion, and by the way, that's actually what our player did. They went into the game and they played like a support champion. Or like a poke champion, you're going to run into some issues in this game. Why is that? Why can we not play how our champion wants to play? Well, we can't because Jhin, what does Jhin like to do? He's also a poke champion, right? He has that very high range in the Q and the W and the 4th shot. Lux, also another poke champion, right? And if we look at our ADC, we have Samira, right? This is Samira and Irelia swapped. What does Samira want to do? She doesn't have range. She can't poke. She's an all-in champion. So if you take this mixed bot lane that ends up being like kind of half all-in, half poke versus the full poke lane, if Seraphine tries to play like a poke champion, she's just going to get beats because the enemy team has the poke champions. So the hardest part about bot lane is understanding the identity has to be combined. It's combined identity. Even though Seraphine wants to poke, because of her combined identity with Samira, compared to the enemy's identity, which is full poke, she can't play as a poke champion. So let's go ahead and get into this game and actually show you what we mean here a little bit. So let's skip down into lane phase. We end up leashing here for Diana. Diana starts bot side. Now we come out to lane here. Now, we already understand from loading screen, and this is where you have to think about this, that, okay, these guys are the poke champions, right? For poke champions to win lane, they really want to keep prio. They want to trade shorts, and they want to just kind of like never get hit, right? Never get hit. All right, avoid hits. This is what they're trying to do. Now, this is the game plan that you want to kind of develop in loading screen. Our team, Seraphine's a poke champion, but Samira's not. So how do we counter poke champions? We find ways to extend the fights. So we end up becoming the all-in lane. We're the all-in lane. And that's really weird because Seraphine's not an all-in champion, but she is in this game, right? And that's very complicated stuff. But if you start thinking about it in terms of, you know, these guys compared to us rather than just yourself, you can come to a plan a little bit better. What do we do as the all-in guys? We try to extend the trades. Right? One example is like on bounced waves. You're going to be really, really strong. And we'll show some examples here. And this is the game plan that you want to have. But as we watch this game, Seraphine had the idea of a poke champion. And Samira's, you know, she's taking some poke and it's a little bit pain. And the first couple waves, when you're playing the melee lane against the poke lane, you tend to just lose the push and it's completely okay. These first couple waves actually go just fine for them. Seraphine's actually getting some good damage off here as well, which is fantastic. If you can get this damage off, this is absolutely fantastic. But, oh, we even try to set up a little level 2 all-in. Beautiful stuff. Fantastic stuff. So far, we're playing this 100% correctly. We're trying to push for level 2. We're hitting level 2. We're going for the level 2 all-in. Now, look at this. This is where the first mistake happens. Now, this spot, what's Seraphine trying to do here? Seraphine's trying to zone these guys off. Well, and you think, isn't that what Seraphine wants? Doesn't she want to zone them off with her high range? It's like, yes, normally, if you're playing the poke champion, right? Let's say that the ADCs swap here, and we have the Jhin, and they have the Samira. All of a sudden, you know, we have our Jhin here, and we're here, and they're just zoned off of minions. They're going to lose this whole wave, and then the whole next wave, and they're just out of the lane. But since Jhin and Lux actually have the range advantage, they're both going to hit us, the Seraphine, while our Samira can't help at all. And that's not a fault to Samira, that's a fault to kind of game plan. So this is where a poke champion would stand, but since we're the all-in lane, we can't stand here. Where else should we stand then? And you know, you guys watching the video, where do you think Seraphine should stand? Rather than trying to zone like a poke champion, where would an all-in champion like to stand? And it might be helpful to think about an actual all-in support. You know, maybe it's a Nautilus, maybe it's a Pyke, maybe it's a Rel, whatever. Where would these champions be standing right here? And the right answer is you'd want to be further back, you know, in this bush, somewhere in this area, so that if, you know, you're standing in this bush and Jhin walks up to get a minion, you collapse on him, you all-in him, and he dies. You want to bait him to come up, right? That's how these all-in laners play. But we had the wrong idea. We have to blow flash. And now we're in a very scary spot. We were setting up all in, but now we're so far behind, we can't create an all in. This E, where we're trying to E at max range, is another example of trying to play at, play like a poke champion. We're trying to poke at our max range. We don't want that. We want to hold our spells so that when they come in, we land the CC and they get all in and they die. And then we get ganked by Lee Sin, and this lane is very, very, very hard. Even when we come back to lane after these deaths, we can see we still have kind of an interesting idea of how to approach this lane, right? We come back, Lee Sin's mid, so we know we're safe from Lee Sin, which is fantastic. And in the VOD review here, when I was doing it in the academy, we actually talked about how as an all-in champion, you don't have a lot of opportunity if the lane's here. We don't actually want to be here, right? We wanted to be mid helping this kill. But fortunately, our team got it anyways, so we're kind of just chilling. And these abilities are fine because there's no opportunity anyways. Now, when this wave comes out, think about what an all-in lane would want to do. This wave's going to come out. The all-in lane is going to collapse into these guys and try to all-in them. That's what we should be thinking about. Take a look at what the Seraphine does. The Seraphine throws out her abilities at max range on the Lux. Now, missing them is bad, but what's really bad is you now miss the opportunity to all-in the Lux. Where if Lux is going to walk up and then we walk behind her so that we can kite with her, we all-in her and we get a double kill. Or Jhin has to sit under tower as they lose waves and plates and Lux dies. But if we're going to cast a poke, we can't play our lane identity anymore. So we're actually going to call the video here. And this is the most important thing, that when you're thinking about creating plans for bot lane and you're thinking about how do you play lane, you think about it in terms of combined identity. Jhin and Lux are the poke lane. So even though Seraphine's a poke champion, Samira is not. Samira's an all-in champion. So we kind of need to think, how do we beat the enemy lane, right? Given these two win cons, like who's going to win? If we play a poke battle, both the poke champions are going to win. So we need to play an all-in battle. And then what does that mean for how you have to play, right? All-in champions, they want to set up extended trades. They want to kite forward. Poke champions, they want to keep push and avoid trading and keep you at the edge of their range. And if you want me to make more in-depth videos on how different styles of bot lanes play, let me know. I just want to make this quick video and say, this is the hardest part about bot lane. It's thinking about the 2v2 combined identity. Combined identity. It's not just Seraphine in a vacuum. It's not just Samira in a vacuum. It's what you two can do together against the enemy. Now, of course, the most common question, what do you do if you know the identity and your teammate doesn't? So let's say you're Samira here and your Seraphine is just perma-poking all the time. You're like, oh my goodness, we will never find an all-in opportunity. What do you do as the ADC when your support doesn't know how to play the lane? Unfortunately, there's not an easy answer. If you're playing the ADC here, you have to just farm and play for late game. ADCs, that's a skill that you have to get comfortable with because that happens a lot, right? If you get weak-sided or if you have a really bad support, you're just gonna have to farm and play for the fights. Now, let's say the inverse is true. If we're playing Seraphine and we actually are trying to set up all-ins that are good for us, and Samira's just messing it up and she's not helping at all and she doesn't know how to play, what should we do? Well, the best part about support is you're not tethered to your lane. Our job is to have the most positive impact on the game as we can early game. That's the support. We're early game impact. If your ADC is refusing to have a good early game impact, what should we do? Leave. Leave your ADC. Leave them fast. Leave them often. Now, obviously, you want to make sure their lane's fine so they don't get like frozen out or so they don't get dove. But in this situation, say that we're the Seraphine and we've decided that our Samira is like not being helpful. Well, what you can do here, this wave is freezing back to us, like it's pushing back to us. We can say that Samira's relatively safe and we can just leave and we can go mid. We can play with our Diana. If our Diana's on the top side, we can go make a top play. We can get vision. We can maybe invade. We can set up this dragon, things like this. So if you know the identity and you know how you're supposed to be playing and your bot lane teammate just isn't, you have to deal with it. Supports deal with it by like leaving and going somewhere else. ADCs deal with it by farming and scaling. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if you guys want to see more bot lane content. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.